Hey, what's up y'all? Welcome back to my channel, Serendipity. Today I'm reacting to 4 ways British and American beaches are different. I keep on just looking at this red line I have on my forehead. I'm like just getting over like a sunburn, or it's a little bit between a sunburn and a windburn because it was like sunny that day. Well, I don't even think it had like a cloud in the sky, and it was extremely windy. We just finished Mardi Gras season, and I was at a parade, and I got burnt. This is the first time I think I've ever got sunburnt this early in the new year. But yeah, so I never thought of the beaches being different, so I have no thought going into this. So yeah, let's get into this video.
Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to the things either side of it. Beaches. Remember beaches? Beaches were a big part of my childhood. I was born in the seaside town of 𝐂𝐤𝐤𝐞. I holidayed in Devon, and I watched things like Jaws, a film depicting terrible tragedies at sea, and Jaws the Revenge, a terrible tragedy. But those childhood experiences were only a taster of what was to come. After moving to America, I realized that many universal seaside traditions from my youth weren't universal at all. The British and American beach culture were like chalk and cheese, or the word lieutenant. Sure, your standard beach will usually come with large helpings of sand, waves, and David Hasselhoff, but look closer because everything from the sea life to the beach food is quite different on either side of the pond. So pull out your bucket and spade as we take a look at 4 ways British and American beach culture is very different.
Let's see.
It's often said that the biggest difference between Britain and America is that America thinks 100 years is a long time and Britain thinks 100 miles is a long way, but that's not it. The biggest difference is food. And while that's the sort of thing that I might say after subsisting only off a single fajita, it's even true at the seaside. For instance, my American wife had never heard of sticks of rock. And if you're like her, a stick of rock is a type of stick-shaped boiled confectionery sold at seaside resorts in Britain. They're painful to eat. In fact, Venn diagrams show a significant overlap between rock consumption and stereotypes about British teeth. Willy Wonka himself would have ruled it a step too far, and while the Candyman thinks he can, he bloody can't. But another staple of British seaside is the 99 flake. This is a soft-serve ice cream topped off with a Cadbury flake. It's immense. But to me, few things are more immense than the meal of my hometown. Fish and or chips. Don't get me wrong, fish and or chips is plentiful in America. It's just not particularly synonymous with American seasides. To uncover every food item that is, I'd need a notepad, a dietary translator, and about 26 hours. That's because
Honestly, if there's like any stands that are selling food by the beach, I never go to them. They're usually like very, very overpriced. And also, I just going to the beach, walking like through the beach. You just don't want to eat. To me, anyway, it's like you just want plenty of water, maybe some alcohol, and maybe just something to snack on if you're planning on being at the beach for hours. But I've never like purchased like an actual food at the stand. We usually just grab like sandwiches or like something easy and small just to hold you off until, you know, whenever you're gonna leave. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't get anything besides maybe, like I said, when I'm at the beach, I live off of like a little bit of sandwich. I might like a half of a sandwich or full one, and then water, and then like some alcohol. That's all you need.
American beach food varies from region to region. In New England, they're all about their clam cakes and pier fries, which is sort of like fish and or chips, but without a knife. In the mid-Atlantic, New Jersey sells rippers. These aren't tiny clones of Peter Sutcliffe, but a type of hot dog that burst after being deep fried in oil. I want that right now. In the Great Lakes, particularly in Michigan, something that smelled fried was fried smelt. Fried smelt is basically tiny battered fish, but it's also the reason my cat is staring at me right now with all the intensity of Quint from Jaws. On that note, southern beachgoers apparently need something with a little bite. Restaurants accommodate this by putting fried alligator on the menu. At first I assumed this was just another American food title that comically incorporated animals, you know, like elephant ear, puppy chow, and hello panda. But fried alligator is actual alligator. And in case you're wondering, the meat can only be legally sourced from alligator farms, which apparently exist outside of the James Bond universe. Bearing the berry imported from Brazil, acai bowls are all the rage on the West Coast, where it's important to have a beach body like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson or YouTube sensation Lawrence Brown. In the Pacific Northwest, people dig for and eat razor clams. Despite their name, razor clams are not suitable objects for shaving with. If I could speak to my younger self, that's what I'd tell him. And in Hawaii, they're all about their poke, and when I say their poke, I mean it. This fish salad originated on the islands, along with the ukulele and the surfboard. Speaking of which...
See objects.
So much for edible objects. What about the kind that you don't stick in your mouth? This should definitely apply to windbreaks, which are useful for breaking coastal wind, less so for breaking your own. They were all over British beaches when I was a kid, and by all accounts you still see them, but I wasn't sure of their popularity stateside, so I fielded responses on Twitter. On the whole, my American followers arrived at my consensus that windbreakers aren't really a thing over here. This accounts for why George Lucas wrote lines about sand getting everywhere. Moreover, the British have another way of evading the elements. Lining the sands of several beaches up and down Britain, beach huts are also used by beachgoers for getting changed, storing belongings, and definitely not for acting out the name of a fruity cocktail. But there's one other thing to note about beach huts. You're far less likely to find them in America. This is perhaps not surprising, given that the southern and eastern coasts frequently endure enormous hurricanes. But if America did have them, there's one item that they're more likely to store than us Brits: surfboards. While surfing...
I would say, yeah, we don't have anything. You either just have to stay, like, so if you're driving to the beach, like if you're not staying at like a hotel that's nearby and you can't just like walk to your hotel, you literally just don't go into the beach before you're about to leave, just so you can dry off as much as possible. Or you have people that shield you with towels and stuff to help so you can change.
Ross made some waves. In Britain, it ain't got nothing on America. This calls to mind the song Surfin' USA by rock and roll legends the Beach Boys. Tragically, of course, the song was later covered by Aaron Carter. But modern surfing came to the US in the early 1900s via the Hawaiian surfers Duke Kahanamoku and George Freeth, the latter of whom died during the global flu pandemic of 100 years ago. That said, the relative absence of surfing doesn't mean that Brits don't have anything to ride at the beach, and I'm not just alluding to what they get up to in their huts. I'm talking about donkey rides. Throughout the UK, a popular seaside pastime is riding donkeys on the beach, and this is an activity enjoyed not by humans, but children. As someone who's done it, I'd always assumed that this happened the world over, but by all accounts it's a weird British thing. My hope is that our two countries can come together to invent donkey surfing. Until then, let's talk about other seafaring animals. It's often said that Britain and America are two nations divided by a common language, but they're also two nations divided by 300 million cubic kilometers of water. Because of this, and because America has a secret second ocean out back, it stands to reason that some marine animals get lost in the pond. Take, for example, the great white shark. In Jaws the Revenge, a great white disguised as a Fisher-Price toy swims from Martha's Vineyard to the Bahamas after catching wind of Ellen Brody's travel plans. And all of that totally checks out, because great whites do like to roam the shores of those places, but also the shores of many other not Britain places. One of those places is California, where fatal great white attacks are the highest in the nation. Of course, there have only been about 15 of those in the last century, but a record is a record. On the other hand, fish such as the Atlantic cod, Atlantic plaice, or Atlantic marine.
How many of you actually go out and swim in the ocean? Sometimes I think of my younger self as like, why did you do that? Because I think like twice have like swam pretty far out And I would never do that now. Now I'm like, you were such an idiot. Why did you go that far out? Like, we were like really far, where like getting back was like a hassle. Like, it took more effort to get back into to the beach than to swim out. But I would never do that now. Now it just freaks me out of all the things that could be there, and yeah, I don't know. I can't do it anymore. So yeah.
Will only grace America's northeast. In Britain, these surround the entire country like moving boxes currently surround me. In fact, everything that I just said is true of the Atlantic puffin too. Often found on cliffs up and down Britain, Atlantic puffins always seem like Britain's consolation prize for missing out on penguins. Of course, there are plenty of other birds that we missed out on too. You might recall that the British wartime singer Vera Lynn famously sang, "There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover." The problem is Dame Vera lied. Bluebirds are unique to North America. And I've just realised that Dame Vera might be watching this. What I meant to say was, Dame Vera, your American lyricist lied. Actually, he was just confused, like me. Speaking of words, it's often said that Britain and America are two nations divided by 300 million cubic kilometers of water, mainly by me, but they're also two nations divided by a common language. Why should life at the beach be any different? Earlier, when discussing food, I neglected to include what Americans call cotton candy. That's because it's available at seasides on either side of the pond, except in Britain, there's one crucial difference. It's not called cotton candy, it's called dental loss. I'm joking, it's called candy floss. It's sort of the perfect way to describe.
Honestly, I don't like cotton candy. I tried it so many times, I don't know what's so good about it. I can't.
Children as you walk along the promenade, or should I say, boardwalk. It's hard to know because both words have currency in both countries. It's just that promenade is foremost in Britain while boardwalk is more prominent in the US. Equal disparity can be found over the pronunciation of a certain floating device.
Really?
Used for navigation, marking underwater objects and eliciting the question, what is that thing? A buoy can serve many purposes. Its biggest purpose though is starting flame wars between Brits and Americans, the latter of whom usually
buoy.
pronounce it buoy. But are you sick of all those arguments? I am. How about this, right? Just for once, let's rise above it. Let's not take the bait. Let's ride the wave together. It's an ideal worth floating. I'll stop now. That's it for this episode. Let me know in the comments below if you really miss the beach like I do, and if your beach body survived quarantine like mine definitely did. For more of my words, be sure to follow me on Twitter at LostInThePondUS, and please subscribe to my channel so that my videos don't get lost in the pond.
Alright, I learned a few things. Those little huts he was talking about, that would actually be a pretty smart idea. I thought one thing that was weird was, which I know that there's some places in the US that has them, but the first time I've ever seen a beach that didn't have like white sand, which was off of a movie, Nanny McPhee, they had like rocks or like pebbles or whatever you want to call them at the beach. And I thought that was so weird. But then as I grew up, I know that there's different beaches. Like there's like a black sand beach in California or something like that. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like always, there's more to come, and I'll see you in the next one.